Okay, welcome everybody to Bitrix24 Live. This is your opportunity to ask questions and get answers from our Bitrix expert. I am Damien Edwards, the Commercial Manager of Interface. We are Bitrix24 Gold Partners. And with me today, I have our Head of Customer Success, Andy Naylor.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. As Damien mentioned, I'm the Head of Customer Success here at Interface. So please do put your questions through to us in the box provided throughout this session, and we can answer them as we go along.
Okay, let's kick off with some questions we've had in earlier. First one is it possible to password protect a landing page you build on the sites module? We only want specific people to access the site who we give a password to. So I don't know if that's possible, Andy, is it, to have a password protected area?
So if I just jump into Bitrix here. So yeah, you're referring to the sites and the stores module, and there isn't actually a method of protecting your pages using a password within the sites module in here. However, we have had the request previously for on-premise clients, and it is something that we could potentially implement on an on-premise version of the sites module. So although it might not be, well, it definitely is not possible on the cloud version of Bitrix. If you do have an on-premise version, then it has the scope, we have the scope to be able to implement that.
Okay, excellent. Next question. Where are the free HR functions? Does this include recruiting? I mainly need applicant tracking. So we did a video on this, didn't we, recently? So it can all be handled quite well in Bitrix, can't it, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, in terms of where the HR, so if the HR tools that come with Bitrix are in multiple different areas, and you can actually create your own. Bitrix gives you the flexibility to set out your own processes. And as Damien mentioned, there is a tool there is a video, sorry, that we've done previously. And I mean, first of all, if in terms of HR, if you're wanting to look into the absence chart, so if you're wanting your team to request leave, then Bitrix does have the absence chart within here, and it will have pre-built workflows. So if you're on a commercial package of the cloud version of Bitrix, if you go into the feed, click on more, click on workflow here, then what you'll see is some predefined workflows that come with Bitrix. Now, if this is empty for any reason, you can click into workflows directory here, and you can install free standard requests. So this one for HR, that's the most common. It's a leave approval workflow, and that comes with a pre-built workflow to be able to accept your leave requests. So I click into here, you would have a very similar form that your users could fill out, your employees. Once they click on send, that will then trigger the process that is behind it. And eventually, depending on the type of leave that the user requests, then it would get added to the absence chart. So that's one example of obviously the HR tool that you could use. Now, Bitrix also has, in the automation side of things, the robotic process automation. So if we click into all processed in here, what we can do is, again, we can create our own unique workflows directly from within this module, and we can have approval blocks during this. So this would be the second area where you can build your own workflows for HR requests. And then finally, one of the other areas that you could implement is in the smart process automation. So it might be that we have, for example, we create a smart process automation form managing your employees. So you could have a smart process automation for employee data, so salary information, contracts, the days of they're entitled to for leave, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple areas in Bitrix that give you free HR tools. Some of them you will need to configure yourself. So I would recommend, we do have a number of videos on YouTube for this, especially the smart process automation. We have one for managing your employees. We also have, as Damien mentioned, other videos that have HR process for requesting leave as well.
Okay, thank you. So actually, you mentioned smart process automation. The next question we've got is there a difference between RPAs and SPAs? So RPAs are robotic process automation and SPAs are smart process automation. And there is a difference, isn't there? And it is quite useful to know the difference between the two so that you can obviously choose the right module for your particular application.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how we classify the robotic process automation is for business requests. So what we would mean, so internal business requests is generally what robotic process automations are used for. So it might be that you have a request for a business trip. It might be that you have a request for your expenses, as you can see on here. And generally, the robotic process automation goes through a process that requires approval. Okay, so you'll be able to find it under automation and robotic process and click on all processed in here. If we just click into this particular area, what you can do is you can set up a particular form. So I can click on here and I can have a form that I need to fill out within here. But the important aspect of what robotic process automation gives you, it gives you the ability to create assignments for your employees to carry out a range of different things. So for example, if I submit an expense request, I've maybe taken a train to somewhere and I want to submit the train tickets that I paid for, I can submit this via a robotic process automation, and then you can have maybe an approve or decline assignment. So you can see in here, we could call this in here, approve expense. And then in here, we can queue users for approval. So we can say any listed, and I can update them in here. So that would mean that once I submit my expense request, that would then get sent to maybe a particular, in this case, Jane and Jim in here. And any of the two people who receive that request can therefore approve it or decline it. So robotic process automation is more for internal requests, whereas smart process automation can be used for a whole range of different things. Now we have, as I mentioned on the previous question, we've created a number of different processes in our smart process automation previously. So it might be that you'd want to track dentist appointments. If you're a dentist, you can use a smart process automation to hold that information. If somebody submits a form to book a dentist appointment, you can store that information inside here. It might be that you use a smart process automation for onboarding employees. That is another common one that you've got in here. Applicant tracking, again, if you've got a job post that's maybe live at the minute, we can track new applicants coming in. So somebody might apply for the position on your website. That application could come into this smart process automation and then go through a series of stages to say if they get hired or not. So smart process automation is quite it's a lot more flexible, and it's not just internal requests. You can manage a whole range of different things in here.
Thank you. Next question we have in is we're thinking of installing an on-premise edition of Bitrix, but the left-hand menu is overwhelming with modules we don't need. How can we simplify the menu? That can be done, can't it, Andy? I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
On-premise.
Yeah, so I'm actually on an on-premise site at the minute. So this is our demonstration site. So what the on-premise gives you is the ability to customize the system a lot more. And the reason for that is that you have access to the code. Now, when you have access to the code, we can jump into our profile. We can click into here and click on into the control panel in here. And then we can access, for example, the source code in here. Now, we've done the removal and customizations of menus on the on-premise side many times. And what we can also do is add permissions on menu items as well. So it might be that we have only a certain group of individuals, or maybe a particular department, that wants access to the marketing area within Bitrix. So we can categorize and group people to see different menus as well. So having the on-premise does give you a lot more flexibility in terms of customizing that menu. It does, I would probably recommend using a partner for that. They will be obviously experienced in doing minor customizations such as that in the on-premise version. But yeah, I can understand why you would want to. I mean, sometimes the left-hand menu can be a little bit overpowering because there are a lot of modules in Bitrix and not everybody uses them all straight away. So it's quite common that once you get Bitrix that you minimize the menu as much as possible. And then what people tend to do is start releasing other modules as they go along.
Excellent. Okay, can you explain if I can integrate with Bitrix on cloud plan, a payment or expenses system that I can carry an Excel sheet and sync with Bitrix business process of approving expenses and tallying expenses made in Excel? So in short, a business process in Bitrix with which a payment approval is requested and that Excel can send the information to Bitrix to know if there's a budget left in the requested item. So I think, as Andy's just showed you with robotic process automation, that's how you would handle an expenses request process, I think I'm right in saying. So what we need to add into that is an integration with Excel, which we can certainly do. So you could populate a new robotic a process from a new item, add a new line added to an Excel spreadsheet, and we could develop that integration for you. You can do a direct integration, or we could do it through something like Make, where you would pay just per transaction, which would be a fairly low amount to get each of those requests into Bitrix. So there wouldn't be, by doing it through Make, there wouldn't be an upfront cost to develop the integration. You just pay a small amount for each process, each transaction. I
think with that though, I think if you were to do that kind of integration, I mean, especially if you're wanting it sort of live to reflect what's in Excel, then you would obviously need to be using Excel in the cloud. So it would have to be online, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. The only other way that you would have to manage it is if you're importing the Excel every so often to update specific values, I guess.
That's right, actually, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. You could just import it, couldn't you? But I was assuming that it was Excel on a Google Sheets or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, it might be. I mean, what a lot of people do, and probably one of the most common things that we come across is that people obviously use these. Obviously using spreadsheets, it might be good obviously to come off those spreadsheets and actually manage it all in terms of having maybe you mentioned about a budget per person. You could actually assign a budget against a particular employee inside Bitrix, and every time that somebody requests an expense, it comes off that particular employee's balance of that budget. Rather than you having to manage it in an Excel, we could come with a solution that would essentially move you away from Excel. And then everything would be managed inside Bitrix. They would have a form, they fill out the form and their expense and the value, that gets submitted, gets approved, and on their approval, that's when it would get taken off that particular employee's balance or budget, as you say. But that would be fairly straightforward in Bitrix, I think, and it would be achievable in both. Like as you mentioned, you've got the cloud plan. It would be achievable in the cloud, I would have thought, because you do have a calculation field in there that you would be able to subtract the values from that. So it might be just worth just getting in touch with us, just or a partner or another partner, and yeah, maybe we can come up with a solution that would work.
Yeah. Okay. Can I run a process to update the responsible person on a deal when a field value changes? So you can change one value in a deal based on when another value changes as well, and you can set conditions, can't you? I think so. Depending on what that value changes to would be dependent on whether you run the process or how you run the process. But I think I'm right in saying you'd need to use business processes, wouldn't you, on this instead of automation? Would that be right, Andy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would tend to be that you would use a business process. So what was the question in terms of the area? It was in a deal. So with regards to in deals, yeah, so you would be doing it in under the more section, click on to settings, CRM settings, and then in automation here, we have the business processes. So if we added a new template in here, the important aspect of that question was when a field changes. So what we would need to do is only run this business process when a deal gets edited. And then we could say update responsible. So this business process will only trigger when a deal gets edited. And then I would just need to check if there is, just bear with me one moment. I think it might be, sorry, CRM, sorry. So I think what we would need to do, I was just checking if there was, I can't recall if there was a watch a particular field, but yeah, as Damien mentioned, what we would have is we would have a condition. So what you would need to do in this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Damien, is that you would obviously have a condition to check that particular field, what the original value was, and if it's changed from the original value, then you would have an edit element that would basically use update the responsible person. So we could check the responsible person here, which is in here somewhere. There we go, responsible, and then we would set that responsible person. The only difficult part of this is checking when it changes. So if I'm the responsible person and we have field ABC, that changes, it's just getting the original value. So normally what we would have is two fields, wouldn't we? And we would update the other field to say it's changed. We would check that field and then update the responsible person and then reset that particular field. I think that's how we would do it.
Yeah, you have to do a process where you copy that field to an, it's a bit complicated to explain, isn't it? But you have to run a process where we copy that information to another field so that when it updates, you know that actually it's changed. Yeah, we can build that process for you. So if you want some support to help set that up, then get in touch and we can show you how to do that offline. Next question, how can I pull all of our client information from the CRM to a spreadsheet, such as name, phone number, etc., along with notes that we add for each client? So we can export, can't we, CRM data? You can't export activities, can you? So it depends on where we're adding. I don't think you can export activities, can you? It would just be the basic fields, but not those events and activities.
Yeah, that's it. So as Damien mentioned, I'm sure you're aware of how to export out of the CRM. So if I went into companies, for example, what Bitrix is good at is that if I click on the little gear icon, the fields that you see here highlighted in blue are the fields that we can just export. So we can minimize the amount of fields, columns in your spreadsheet. So if you've got phone number, you've got email, I can click on here, I can click on export companies to CSV, for example, and then I can leave those two empty, click on run, and it would show me a spreadsheet just with these column headers. Now, what it won't do, as Damien mentioned, is that it won't export any of the activity or notes that you have on this right-hand side. If you've been putting your notes into maybe a comments field or something like that, then you can export that side. So if your notes are on this left-hand side, yeah, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. The only other way, and it would take a little bit of customization, is that you can get company data via the API. That would be the other option to do that. So, and you can actually would be able to get the activities that are associated to that particular company via the API. So yeah, that's how, those are the two different options.
Okay, excellent. Next question, how do I track time spent on projects? So this is possible, isn't it? I think users can add time to task, can't they? And you can measure that against estimated time on task, can't you, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. So in tasks and projects, if you ever get assigned a particular task, so you can see all our tasks here are associated to a particular project. If we go into let me just go in a couple of these. So this task has time tracking enabled to it. So I'll just show you where that is first of all. So if we go into more, if we have this checked, then what that time tracking check gives you is this start time tracker block on here. So if I click on start, you can see the counter starting to tick up. And that is one way that you can track time. Now, you'll only be able to, as an individual on the system, start the time tracker on one task only. So if I went to another task in a project and hit start, then it would tell me that my current time tracker is being recorded in customization of calculations task. So that's how you would do it via a time tracker. Then you also have the ability to track time manually. So if you wanted to click on the time elapsed tab at the top, we could scroll down, click on here. I could say the 10th of November, I've done an hour, recorded some calculations in here. And then that would add the time onto this particular total in here. So that when you do add it manually, just add this little icon. It just tells you that that time is being recorded manually. But that's how we start to build up time on projects. And then you can go into your reports in here. There are some pre-built reports. So you can track time in here. You can build a report to track the amount of time that has been added to your particular projects within here. Project time report would be that one.
Okay, thank you. Next question, how do I set up a new phone number and can I link my current number? So I can answer the second part of that, linking your current number. So it's not possible to migrate a number to, so Bitrix has telephony built in, right? And Andy will show you how you can rent a new number within Bitrix directly within the Bitrix system, and you start using that number. You can't migrate your current number to Bitrix, but if you're using a PBX like 3CX or Ring Central or one of the main PBX systems, phone systems, then you can integrate that phone system with Bitrix, and that would allow you then to make and receive phone calls using the tools in Bitrix, so the click to dial on CRM records. When an incoming call comes in, it will pop up and show you who's ringing based on your CRM data. So if you're using a well-known PBX system that has a pre-built integration with Bitrix, and I say things like 3CX and RingCentral, and there's a lot of others as well. Using those, you can integrate with Bitrix, and that would allow you to use that number then inside Bitrix. So they're all the apps that we have available, phone systems we're able to integrate with. The simplest way, if you could show us, Andy, the simplest way is just to rent a number.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can rent a number in here. You can specify your geographical region. So if I said, for example, the USA as an example in here, you can specify whether you want local, mobile, or toll-free. And then you can select your state in here. So we can select New York, and then we can have a region of New York in here. So you can see that you do have quite a wide choice. Click Melport, and then you can see it's only $4 per month. You have to have enough money in your account to be able to purchase it. So you can top up your account and add that particular $4 in there. Click on Rent, and you will automatically get assigned that particular telephone number.
It looks like in the US, there's no paperwork, so they'll assign you a number, a US number. So in a lot of other regions, you have to prove that you're either operating a business or a resident of that country. So yeah, that's it. Note there saying you've got to provide some evidence, but that depends that changes from region to region. Okay, next question. Can I record working time for remote employees? I would like to see the time they clock in and clock out. So we have a module that allows users to clock in to Bitrix. Doesn't look like it's enabled on this one, but we can turn it on, can't we, Andy? I think.
Yes, but I think let's have a look at the question. It's for remote employees. I mean, if they are an employee, then absolutely you can first of all set your work schedules in here, so you can specify the times that they should be clocking in and clocking out. So I guess you would make a work schedule for your remote employees, and you can assign it to your remote team here. So they would have a particular schedule that they need to meet. And that's really important, because then in terms of your reporting, when you go into the work time area, you'll be able to see any issues about them logging in maybe too late. So if I've set somebody that from a remote team should be working from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., there is a 15-minute leeway that you can add in that schedule. But if they're clocking at, let's say, 9:30, 9:30, then it would pull up an alert on this particular time report to say that that individual has clocked in 15 minutes too late. So yeah, all I would do in here, like Damien said, it's not, so if I click on here, switch it on, I can have daily reports as well. That goes into the daily reports section. If I click on save and just give it a quick refresh, you can see in this top menu now that my clock in is flashing. I can click on clock in, and then that will, you can see in here. I probably don't have a schedule assigned, but you can see that it's working. And what will happen in my here is it will start adding up all the time that and then I can clock out. And you can do that on mobile too. So it's that's how you would do that.
Thank you. Okay, what is the difference between sequential business processes and state-driven business processes? So I think I don't know if we've got a state-driven one inside here that we can show, but I think the main difference is that a sequential business process has a start and an end point, and it works through a sequence until it gets to that end point. And a state-driven process is triggered by the status of something. I think it's almost a state-driven process is almost similar to automation. I think I'm right in saying that it's triggered by the status in an automation on a deal. the automation is triggered when the status changes. And I think that's the same with a state-driven business process. But do we have one set up at all?
I'm just going to look in here. I do think in the documents, I was just trying to approve document with states. So it's right, as Damien said, essentially what you do inside here, in each one of these particular states, so we have a draft state, we have an approval state, and we have a publishing state. And each one of these, we have a process within it. So you can see in here for our approval, we send an email to the approval team, and if they approve it, then we set the status to published, but we can set the state to draft. And if we set the state to draft, then we go back into here, and then it'll start running this particular process inside here. So you essentially set the states within the process. So rather than, as Damien said, the sequential has a start point. So let's just say, in this case, we could have a sequential business process in this document drive for a new document being created. That would then trigger the sequential business process, and you would have a start point and finish at the end. Whereas this state-driven process is all managed around state. So if I clicked on here and clicked into, there is an area where you would click, and there is an option. I have to double check where it is, but there is an here, so you can set status name. So sets the status of the current element in here. So we could set the state and we could put it within there. And it's all about doing that. And it's like I say, it's essentially never ending, isn't it? It can be triggered each time a state gets updated.
Okay, can I create a lead from a WhatsApp message? So we can do this, can't we? We can integrate WhatsApp and through the contact center, and all those incoming inquiries and messages can generate leads, can't they? So we got the
Yeah, absolutely. So inside the contact center in here, so in add-ons contact center, we have the ability to connect up WhatsApp in here. So yeah, you can set that up for WhatsApp to appear on your website widget if you wanted to. So if somebody's on your website on their phone, they can click on the WhatsApp symbol, send you a message, and it would come through the open channels widget on here. And then you have the option in the settings to create a lead from that. And then we also have the ability to connect up WhatsApp business number, don't we? Yeah. So if somebody was to message that number, then it would come through the open channel widget.
Yeah, our numbers are WhatsApp numbers, and so you can ring them, but you can message us as well, and any messages you send to our phone number comes through into Bitrix, and if it recognizes that phone number from the sender, then it adds it to that existing record. If it doesn't, creates a new lead for us. Okay, next question. Is it possible to have project templates? I would like to have a set of tasks which will be the same for each project. So we can use a business process for this, can't we? But there isn't a project. You can't create, or can you create project templates? I don't think you can you? Or you can?
Well, you can. Yeah, you can in such. So how we would do it would be, we would recommend you to go into work groups and create a project itself. So once you click on here, we can set a project, and I'll just set one up. So I'll just say, we would usually say project template. Sorry. We could give it a different theme. So we'll call a theme on here, give it an icon. We can set all the parameters as you normally would do. We would class it as a project. We'll leave the dates, click on next. We'll make it private. We can add, if it's going to be a template that you want to use over and over again and the same people are in it, then you can add your moderators, your owner, and your team in here. We can then click on next. And then, so that would be your template. And obviously in here, we can create all of the tasks. If it's, as I say, if it's going to be a repetitive project. And then that would sit within your workgroups area. So you know that that was there to be used. And what you can do is if we click into About Project up here, click into About Project again, and then in our actions, we can click on Copy Project. So if we click on Copy Project, what that's going to do is going to essentially just create a duplication of this template. And then obviously you can then rename it and then work from it. Everybody will be in it, the tasks will be in it, the documents, all of the structure will be in it. So that's how we would recommend to do a project template using the work groups. As Damien mentioned, if you were working in the CRM, for example, you could potentially create a project. I mean, we've got one, haven't we? I think in our, if I just show you in our CRM, in deals. So we have a business process in the background here. When a deal gets completed, we can create a project using a manual business process. So I could say in here, Bitrix24 Live, project type, we've got 2 types, and in the workflow behind it, we can have conditions based on that. But I could add 3 users in here, click on select brief in here, and then in our deadline, let's just add 1st of December, click start. That then triggers a manual business process where we create a work group, we create a series of tasks, we upload the file to the drive inside the work group. So if I went into our work groups now, you can see the Bitrix24 Live work group that I've just created. You see that's the time now. If I click into drive, we've got the project brief that we've just uploaded via the form. We've got a task in here that's already been created, so you could create multiple tasks. And we can create feed posts, we can create calendar events, and so on and so forth. And that's quite a good way of closing out a sale in the CRM and starting a new project from that particular process.
Thank you. Next question. Can I manage my conference room availability? So I guess in calendars, that's possible to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did a short recording on this, but in the calendar, we have meeting room availability in here. So you can select your meeting rooms, you can create them. So it might be that I had add a category for IT meeting rooms, and then I can add one that already exists. So I know the central office is in here. But if I was to add a new meeting room, then we can give it a name. So we could say East Office. We can give it a number of attendees, that the capacity of that particular office, which is quite good, especially when you're adding people to the particular meeting room. And I'll show you how to do that. We could also say it's an IT meeting room. And then when we go into, we can either reserve it from in here. So I can choose the calendar. So I can choose the West Office or the East Office I've just created. And you can see it adds the entry into the calendar. So you can see if it's been booked in previously. So I could say this is a sales meeting, and we could specify a date and time. I could add additional people. And one of the good things with these calendars in Bitrix is if everybody's using them and maybe connected them to their Outlook calendar or Google calendar, which you can do, you can see when everybody's available. So not only is it the meeting room that you can see is available, you can see everybody that you're inviting to the meeting is available too. So that is quite a good feature if you are, if everybody in your company has connected their calendars into Bitrix. So I could save that, and then it would book out that particular office.
Okay, doesn't look like we have any more questions that have come through. So we will wrap it up. Thank you for joining. If you're an existing user of Bitrix24, then get in touch with us for help with setup and support. If you're evaluating Bitrix at the moment, then get in touch again and we can provide you with a demonstration. But thank you very much for joining us today, and bye for now.
Bye for now.